Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Patient First Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bryan Laskin. And as always, I'm really excited that you're here and excited we have one of the innovators in dentistry, Florian Hillen, who's the founder and CEO of VideaHealth, an MIT spinout, a leading dental AI company working with leading DSOs, insurers, and other companies in the dental industry. Previously, Florian conducted research at the intersection of engineering, social science at MIT's Institute for Data Systems and Society and at Harvard Business School. He also worked for McKinsey & Company and founded Ninu, a digital healthcare startup, a health tech startup. And he holds 2 master's degrees from MIT in computer science and technology policy and a bachelor's in management and technology. He completed the first German state exam in medicine as well. Florian, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Brian, for having me. Oh, that was a lot. We should cut that.
I'd like to say I read it without flaws, but I would be lying. Look, you have a very diverse background from science and medicine. And what the hell are you doing in dentistry?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, I love dentistry. And the more I know this industry, and I've been here now like over 5 years, I love it more and more, as probably every one of your listeners. I was in med school in Germany, and I realized I wanted to become a neurosurgeon. And I think at some point I did the calculation that I would treat in my entire lifetime as a neurosurgeon roughly 200,000 patients. And I thought that would be great. But then I also really got into technology. And this is like over a decade ago. And very early on in the 2012ers, I worked for a company, EcoHealth, which did AI for cardiac disease detection, predicting cardiac arrests. And I fell in love with the idea of technology and AI to use for helping more patients. And that's honestly the main reason why I A, dropped out of med school, and B, started a company in dentistry, because everyone goes to the dentist, right? There are over 300 million estimated patient visits per year in the United States, billion of dental x-rays taken. So I think the reason why I did it is because we can have a huge impact on a lot of people, very different than in other healthcare domains. So it's a pretty exciting area.
Yeah, I think that you and I have taken different paths to be in technology and dentistry, but I agree with you completely.
That's right.
Having seen patients, that's one of the things that I came to the conclusion very similarly, where I was like, I didn't do the math because I'm not as smart as you, but I was like, I can only see one patient at a time. And if
That's right.
I have something that I need to get done, if I'm doing a sealant at 7 a.m, I got to see the patient.
That's right. And more patient than me. I should have probably finished my MD or something, but it's fine. It worked out fine.
In preparation for this podcast, you're talking a little bit about how 1,000 Americans shared how they feel about oral health and dental AI. And there was a survey that was done late last year. Can you share some of the findings with our audience about how consumers, patients view AI in dentistry?
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. And I think Forbes or something shared the survey. I think we have talked a lot, probably not enough yet, but we've talked a lot about dental AI and how it helps the clinician, let that be the hygienist or the dentist, right, to easily identify the right treatment plan, and then in particular also present it to the patient in a understanding way. But what we were thinking, okay, let's address the patients, and it's a beautiful podcast for this, right? Let's ask them how they feel about it. And it was very interesting because the large majority of patients said that they would significantly improve the dentist to use AI, and they would be much more likely to accept the treatment if it would have been verified by AI. And then we also saw that this in particular applies actually when you look into the children's. So parents who go with their children to pediatric dentistry, for instance, they in particular want to have a second opinion by AI. And so that was super interesting on a quantifiable way, so to say, to see that there's a huge dominance for that. By the way, this even led us, the survey results are like from a year ago, and that actually led us in the company really also focus on, for instance, building AI for pediatric clinicians. And so I think we had the worldwide first dental AI, which can diagnose children 3 years and up, an FDA clearance we got last December in order to actually satisfy the patient need. So that's kind of the survey. Now, on the other side, Brian, it's very interesting. You're a doctor, but you're also a patient, right? I'm a patient. Every one of us is a patient, which we just talked about. And so in my company, we have like in our office in Boston, we have like Google Map, and we have like these thousands of offices which use our AI in every zip code. And so every one of our employees is actually going to an AI-powered dentist to experience our own AI. And so including myself, and I was just two months ago, I was at a dentist which uses VideaAI. And it's an incredible, powerful experience just to see your own teeth and bone loss mark, green, yellow, red, your calculus, your decay. And you know how nowadays there's this self-improvement thing. You measure everything, you measure your steps, you measure that. I started doing this now, Brian. I know exactly how much bone loss I have in what quadrant. And it's the first time I'm flossing like crazy. In Europe, we don't do that much. It's the first time where really, oh God, I have like incipient decay somewhere. I'm not telling you where. And I'm like, let's do the remineralization. Let's do fluoride treatment. Maybe I can get that back up. And it's a pretty powerful experience. And what's also interesting, Brian, is as a patient, I'm now very incentivized to go to the same office again because I actually want to have my results from past and want to see if I improve or decline. So I will go and I'm much more loyal to my dental office now.
It's interesting. Yeah, I think I like how you framed it, how, going back, how patients view AI and how clinicians view AI. And my first book, The Patient First Manifesto, is all about what I call the great disconnect, which is the disconnect how patients experience dentistry and how healthcare professionals view dentistry, and how there is this there's this massive rift. And the massive rift really comes because people come to our offices, they're freaked out, and we have to provide microsurgeries, right? And what that teaches us to do is to disconnect from our patients, right?
Right.
And
right.
that disconnect has many manifestations, one of which is exactly what you're saying, which is patients sense it and they're looking, so they become more skeptical. And so whatever we can do to be transparent, which is how we get trust, is because that's a bit what this, I think it's about. But moving on from like the patient's perspective of AI, for clinicians not currently using dental AI, right? There's a lot of talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
But can you share the top few benefits that clinicians could expect?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're a clinician, most of the time you have very little time, right? Like you're running from one operatory to another. The same with the hygiene. They spend a bit more time, but still you're running from one operatory to another. If you take an FMX view, you have to view all these images and you need to make sure that you don't miss anything, but you don't have much time. And you have to click through 18 things together and change contrast and brightness. You've done this, right? Like all of these different filters. And then you find a gray spot, which you know is like a $200-300 filling. But it also just looks like a great smudge on a screen. Right? And even though I've been 5 years in dentistry and I've seen definitely thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of x-rays at this point, I even sometimes argue with my dentist, yeah, is that really just cervical burnout or like wrong image? Or is that really decay? And for me as a patient, that matters. And so for you as a clinician, it's not always easy to communicate that effectively. And not all disease you can show with intraoral images or whatnot, which is a good, effective way, but it takes time and it's not always possible. So those are all the challenges you face as a dental clinician every day, right? The same with, by the way, hygienists. There's probing depth, but we all know like probing is not the most pleasant aspect, right, of a procedure. And then you need to tell them why they have periodontal bone loss and they maybe need to scale a root planning procedure. And again, on the radiograph, you don't really see it. So those are challenges we face right now. And so dental patients, they don't always accept treatment because they don't fully trust that really needs to happen. And they also don't have the urgency, right? They say, okay, let's do it later. Let's see where this is going. I think of all the things I just summarized, dental AI and video AI can help a lot. What it does essentially is if you take the x-rays, it automatically takes those x-rays and we have highly accurate FDA cleared diagnostic algorithms or diagnostic support, which highlight the different areas of decay or bone loss, etc. It visualizes it to the clinician first to diagnose, but then also to the patient in a very easy way. And so now all of a sudden what's happening, Brian, is first of all, the clinician saves a lot of time because he just needs to focus on the highlights. And secondly, also, it's a much higher likelihood that nothing is missed because it points out all of this stuff automatically. The AI is never tired. The AI never has a bad day and so on. But then the most powerful thing is actually then when you communicate it to the patient, it's not so much about me as a dentist against you as a patient, what you need to do, and I want to sell you on something, which I truly believe we don't. Like the clinicians, honestly, that's why also I love dentistry so much. They just want to provide the right care at the right time to the patients, right? So the conversation changes from patient versus dentist towards, hey, look at this x-ray, look at all the AI findings. So those are all things we should take care of. Let us together now, you, the patient, and me, the dentist, decide what are we treatment planning when. And that changes the entire dynamic and the relationship and the disconnect you mentioned before quite a lot. And all of a sudden, the patient is co-treatment planning with you, and you get a much better buy-in. And I think that changes the dynamic, and we see that our data converts treatment. And maybe to give you some numbers behind it, Brian, first and foremost, you enable better care. That's very important to me. This is not about revenue, it's about better care. You ensure that the patients get the right treatment at the right time and don't delay necessary treatment, right? Because we all know it just gets worse. Secondly, though, we've done analysis with almost 500,000 dental patients where we looked at treatment plan and revenue and production of the same offices, over 100 locations across the United States, with AI and without AI. And we actually saw that restorative and periodontal procedures and production thereof went up by 20%. So the average office made $80,000 more per year with our AI than without our AI. So it does both. That's the beautiful thing. It has a win aspect of it. And that was important due to my clinical background. The dentist wins, the patient wins because he gets the right treatment, and we can be a successful company as well.
Very cool. You and I have talked before, and we both are in the technology space. And so I want to shift gears a little bit and just talk a little bit about AI, because I think
Yeah.
currently AI is synonymous basically with radiographic interpretation in dentistry. It's like people think of Chat GPT as AI, but in reality, TikTok is an AI platform, Netflix is an AI platform. And I think that there's a lot of room in dentistry for different types of artificial intelligence to come on board. So, number one, A, do you believe that to be true? And B, aside from expanding of which there's a lot of areas to expand the AI usage in interpreting radiographs, where do you think there's going to be the next sort of waves of innovation within artificial intelligence to help provide better care, help dental practices?
This is such a true comment, Brian. Like what you just said about, I think there's a lot of confusion in the public right now. What is AI and what isn't AI? And so maybe let me summarize this and then I answer your question about dentistry. So AI is not a well-defined term, and that's the problem. It's more an overarching term, but there are different types of AI. And how I like to explain that is that there's high level 3 categories. One is ranking systems, which is your Netflix or your so, for instance, hey, you watched all of these TV shows and you binge watch them all through. And other people who also like that. And so you rank different TV shows. That's AI, right? You mentioned yourself, Netflix. The next one is natural language processing. That is your Alexa. Hey, what is the weather like today? And it gives you the output. Or, for instance, also ChatGPT, which I think many of your listeners have heard by now, right? That is also natural language processing, but in form of text and not voice. And the third one is computer vision. And computer vision is, for instance, your Tesla autonomous driving, or the AI we are doing right now, video AI, which is like on dental x-rays. Now, taking these 3 categories, I think all of these 3 categories we will see more and more in dentistry and will expand dental AI. So I do believe that in the next couple of years, AI-supported diagnostic becomes the standard of care. That in 3 to 5 years, by far, almost every dental office will have adopted a video AI or another AI to diagnose and treatment plan. That's a computer vision aspect. I think that will naturally go into other aspects, right? 3D, intraoral, you name it. Then the second aspect, I believe, is that we use natural language processing and all these other ranking AIs to get off of a lot of administrative workload, right? Let that be paperwork, revenue cycle management, you name it. And that is very exciting because those are all honestly tedious tasks which have a lot of room for error. And I think we want to automate that so you, the dentist or the dental clinician, can spend more time upfront, right, with the patients and less time in the background. So I think we will see a lot of automation. And I think in the very long term, like 5+ years, we will see more and more big data AI. And what I mean by that is like medical dental integration, where with lots of data, you can actually predict medical disease such as hypertension or diabetes based on dental information. And that is super exciting for me. Coming from healthcare, that's why we are called video AI, by the way. Videre means to see, to improve for better health. And I think that will happen as well. So it's a very exciting field and it's just getting started.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And thank you. I love the way you provided the context for different types of AI and where it's going. We're doing a lot with artificial intelligence ourselves and in the same vein that you're saying, although not from the visual, but from the other aspects that you're talking about. I believe that pretty much every aspect of technology, and probably there's going to be components of even what we see as traditional dentistry, is going to be sprinkled with AI to help it in some way, shape, or form. Even if you combine several technologies, like what's going on with robotics and AI, and there's going to be new ways to provide care over the next couple decades, right? I think there's a lot going on right
That's right.
now, lots of innovation. And so I appreciate you providing the context of that, because right now I think that people think of AI in dentistry. We fast forward a few years, it's going to be an expanded definition, and I think you set the stage well for that. Yeah, and I know you've been kind of blowing up in a positive way AI within dentistry, ahead of the curve before this whole Chat GPT wave took over the sight of people's consciousness when they think of technology. Have you seen that? I would think, Mel, my thesis is that like that is leading more people into leveraging products like Videa and looking to see how they can incorporate different types of AI in their practice. Are you seeing that happening like right now, basically?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of different drivers. I think it certainly is a little bit that AI becomes much more well understood because people are just like trying ChatGPT. Gemini at Google is all of a sudden integrated. Facebook launches in the chat engine. So we all, Brian, we get much more familiar with AI in general, and we lose our fear of it. We see, wow, it actually helps. It has autocorrect. It has auto-filling words. That's great. It's not that it's similar. It's not that I'm saying, oh no, I want to write every word of my email myself. No, it's actually pretty awesome if the email is a bit pre-populated and saves you time. Right? So I feel like we get more used to using it as an assistive tool. And that's exactly, how we think about video AI as well. It's an assisting tool to the dental clinician. And then that's number one. And I think then number two is also the technology has just come a very long way. We have now over 30 different FDA cleared detections, like different disease states like calculus, caries, lucencies, pediatric population, etc. So we came a very long way to be interesting to almost every dentist in the United States, so to say. So I think that's one thing as well. And then we learned a lot and had a lot of success. For instance, we rolled out the footprint of Heartland Dental, and every dental clinicians there is using us among many other DSOs and many other dentists. And we were able to prove out the value proposition we just talked about earlier about making it easier for dentists to see something, higher case acceptance rate, and so on. I think there's now much more evidence. And so I think it's two things which is happening. There's a lot of evidence that actually it works, and there's data to back this up. And then number two is also we lose the fear of AI and we actually see the benefits of it. And then maybe last but not least is it's incredibly hard right now to hire amazing people, right, in dentistry. It's really a shortage of talent. And so if AI can help you to do your job more efficient and faster, that's really a good thing right now.
That's great. Florian, thank you so much for being on the podcast and for kind of, there's not that many companies and not that many people in dentistry that are truly innovating and creating the new frontier. And you're certainly one of those pioneers. So thanks for what you do. Where can people go to find out more information?
Yeah, they should just go on Videa.ai. Plain and simple. Our Videa.ai is our product name, but it's also a website. And I think that's where you can access all the case studies, the survey you talked about, everything is accessible there. They can book demos, they can see video recordings. I think we have a good overview there, and I hope it will be exciting. And can reach out if they have any questions.
Sounds great. Thanks again, Florian.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Bye-bye.